USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another, and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
My full name is Raymond Charles Wagner III. I go by the nickname Rusty, and I live at Big Pine Key, Florida. I joined the Marine Corps in June of 1967. I was released in July '69. I was in Vietnam from December 3rd, '67 to December 14th, '68. Okay, I grew up on the far east side of Cleveland, in a place called Willoughby Hills. 10 acres and a farm, idyllic. My father was in the Navy in World War II. He served on a ship called Destroyer Escort 800, Jack W. Wilkes. In World War II, I had two uncles on my mother's side joined the Army. And later on, another uncle was in the Korean War. I went to Kent State University, and I was getting nowhere. And all my friends were getting drafted and coming back, and I felt guilty. And I was afraid the war would be over before I got to Vietnam. So I joined the Marine Corps, went to Parris Island, middle of the summer. What an education that place was. It disappointed my father, but I had three friends in my neighborhood I went to school with that were in the Marine Corps. They talked me into it. And so I did it. June of 1967, I enlisted for 2 years. Well, it was kind of rough, but I expected from all the stories what to expect. I knew what was coming, and I would exercise and do sit-ups and pull-ups and run. So I wasn't in bad shape. But I was 23, and everybody around me was way younger than me in boot camp. And I really applied myself. And I was voted the outstanding recruit. The three drill instructors voted for the guy that was on the ball the most. And so out of 90 guys, I got a free set of dress blues. I got a PFC stripe. The jump in rank, huh? And a year subscription of Leatherneck magazine. Pardon me, it was the Leatherneck magazine. And they tell you where you're going in boot camp, and they'd call out your name, and they'll say FMF Westpac. That means Fleet Marine Force Pacific. Well, that means Vietnam.
Did you know in MOS what you were going to be involved in?
Yeah, 0311, basic rifleman. If you were 0331, you're a machine gunner. 0341's mortars. And I graduated from Parris Island on the 2nd of September. About, I think it was, you get 30 days home, and then you went right straight to Camp Pendleton, California. And the first time I ever saw an M16. 2 days later, went to El Toro, or Marine Corps Air Base, to Okinawa, and then to Vietnam, and then into the big picture. Then I was in the infantry. I wound up in Vietnam on the 2nd day of December, 1967, in a place called Camp Carroll. It's about 5 miles from the DMZ, within range of artillery. So you had to be a constant threat there from the artillery. I was in the 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines, the 3rd Marine Division. And I remember the first night, they had 8-inch howitzers and 175 millimeter cannon. Army had these. And 155s and 105s. And when that blast would go off from the 175s, well, the barrel must be 20 feet long. and it's huge. It weighs a ton. It'll go 25 miles. The whole size of the tent would blow in from the shock. And frightening. I couldn't sleep. And the guy next to me is snoring away. And I just got there that day or 2 days before. I said, how do you sleep like that? You get used to it, man. So that's, and you know, he was right. I did get used to it. Every day you'd either go on a patrol, and we're so short on guys, there'd only be maybe 8 of you, and with the counting the machine gunner and the A gunner, and you'd have a corpsman. And then the next day you go on the ambush with about 6, 7 guys at night. The next day you'd have the day off. The next day you and 2 other guys would go 500 feet outside in the grass and the trees, and it'd be a listening post. And you'd have a radio. You took turns taking sleep. They'd always make me go first because they're tired. They've been there a long time. And they'd snore, and I'd wake them up. And they'd get mad. But you can't talk. And so the radio man back in the rear, if sit reps are all secure, key your handset 2 times. Sit resting, situation report. So if everything's cool, you're not going to say, yeah, everything's cool. You go, shoo, shoo. The noise, you would think everybody within 50 feet could hear you. So that was my most fearful times was just me and 2 other people way outside the encampment. When I was on these listening posts, I found that they'd give me a Starlight scope. We didn't have any. The Army gave it to us. And when we had to pass them around from company to company. And I'd look in there at a place called Camp Carroll at night, and this thing would make a big noise. The front's this big, and then it tapers down to a eye piece. And I was seeing North Vietnamese soldiers walking with their rifles, holding it by the barrel. I was hallucinating. I gave it to my buddy. I go, look through there. You see anybody? I don't see nothing there. And I go, wow. That's how fatigued. I mean, you could just close your eyes and you go to sleep. It's hard to stay awake on watch. But I've never been that tired in my life. Sleep deprivation. You'll start seeing and hearing things, and yeah, it's crazy. This is a picture of my squad in March 1968, Cam Lo, Vietnam, March 1968. My regiment, the 9th, had more casualties of anybody other, the 3rd and the 4th of battalions in Vietnam. So we constantly have turnover, wounded, some people getting killed, but lots and lots of wounded.
Any close calls for you?
Several. September 2nd, 1968, we're in a place called LZ Gurkha, which is northwest of Khe Sanh. Khe Sanh has already been abandoned. They abandoned it 3 more times during the course of the war. And I made coffee, and I even have photos of the guys around me. Well, the North Vietnamese dropped these 82 millimeter mortars, one after the other. And the guys I was just talking to, Bob Masters, the first squad leader, both his arms blown off. Joe Carbonaro from Netcong, New Jersey, both his legs blown off just below the knee. And my buddy from Arkansas, Tippett, had to get his right leg amputated. Oh, this is a picture coming back from ambush in the Laotian border. The guy in the front had both his arms blown off in September 2nd, 1968. This was taken in July 1968. My squad. And I had been away from it a little bit before the mortars, and then I heard boom, And I thought it was the engineers blowing these trees down because they bring howitzers in, 105s. And then another one, I said, oh man, that's not our engineers, that's mortars. So I ran, I should have just fell on the ground. There's no hole. Well, I got hit in my right calf, and it didn't go all the way through. It went through my calf, and it knocked my leg down, and I fell, and I got up hobbling, and got behind a tree, and this other guy comes next to me, pushed me out behind a tree, and I'd push him back. The tree is only about this way. Honor, right? So, and then Brown come in real quick, and I put my hand across my face, and it blew a hole through my wrist and hit him in the neck. And I didn't have my shirt on, I didn't have nothing. So I hobbled down the hill, got a patch, and wrapped it around his neck. Then mortars stopped, and then we grabbed everybody, and we had to leave real quick. So the door gunner says, "You hit too?" And I says, "Yeah." So he threw me in through the hatch for the machine gun. But yeah, but I was telling the guys it was other guys were way hurt, worse than me, arms and legs blown off, you know. Yeah. So I was happy just to get out of there, to be honest with you. Later on, I was written up for a Silver Star, and they broke it down to a Bronze Star. With B. With a B for valor. So, and I got the Purple Heart for getting wounded. So, September 2nd, 1968. I got wounded in the head, and the right arm, and the my right calf, and my right head. No big problem. I'm glad I was back. This photograph was taken in Camp Carroll in September 1968. My other friend, Jay, happened to be there in the hole the round that went into Joe Carbonaro's hole and blew his legs off. Jay was in the next hole, which couldn't have been more than 5 feet. So, and then my friend Jay, we were in Vietnam together the whole time, and he just passed away 2 years ago. This is my friend, Jay Roger, taken on the Laotian border just after an ambush. September 1968. I was in the same hole when he got wounded. There's a machine gunner to my left, 3 of us in this hole. My friend Jay, 6'5", from Royal Oak, Michigan. And my friend Louis Myro from Brooklyn. Well, his right arm is against my left arm. And Jay was on the radio, the PRC 25, and he puts it down. He says, "Ray, you want a Marlboro?" "No, not right now." Bam! His head flies back. He's got a hole in his forehead and a hole in his neck. And Louis got a hole big as a quarter through his right arm, which is against my left arm. And I look to my left, the machine gunner is laying on his back all chewed up. But the A gunner didn't get a scratch, and I didn't get a scratch.
This is shrapnel? This is from mortar?
Shrapnel landed within, well, 4 feet from us. Never heard that one coming. It just, usually you could hear them a long ways. Man, you gotta get in a hole real quick. When I first got there, I was at Camp Carroll, but would move around a lot. We've even been in the rock pile, which is this geologic crazy place. Sheer rock going up in a flat plain. And then you go a little farther down, Route 9 does a big curve, and then Laos straight ahead.
Camp Elliott Combat Base was the official name given by the military, but it was commonly known as the Rock Pile. The Rock Pile's strategic position was at the intersection of 5 major valleys, less than 10 miles away from the highly contested demilitarized zone, and it provided a commanding view of the surrounding area, including several critical infiltration routes.
and would go to a place called LZ Stud. Later on, they called it Vandergrift Combat Base, named after General Vandergrift, the famous general Guadalcanal fame. Then you go to Kalu, and then Quezon. And later on, went to a place called, well, I went to Cam Lo, of course, many times, and then would go to Cua Viet, which is really bad. But it was on this, you know, we're in sand. There was little miniature sand dunes. I actually heard the Newport News fire 8-inch naval guns over our head. And they call it, it sounded like railroad cars. You know, all my life, my World War II uncles. And that's exactly what it sounded like a railroad train going over here. Very powerful stuff. I got pinned down in this place called Cua Viet. I volunteered for Point. Trying to be macho man. So the other squad, I was squad there, I didn't have to do that. I'm in the middle, I'm relatively safe. Well, the other squad leaders saw that and they didn't want to be outdone, so they did. Well, all three of us in 3 lines, columns, took off. Mortars start coming in. The lieutenant gets hit in the elbow and just gave up. He passes command over to it normally would be a platoon sergeant, but he was on R&R in Hawaii, visiting his wife. So the right guy, which is senior corporal, the lieutenant says, you do whatever you want. McSweeney, Terrence McSweeney was his name. So, bam, more mortars. And this guy, I'm looking at him and the mortar goes off and it blows nothing but sand on me because the mortar penetrated the soft sand. And I, wow, I got away with that one. I even looked at my pants and said, wow, no blood. Keep going, they're all yelling, keep going, keep going. More mortars. And this guy goes down and his legs are all bloody. A corpsman comes up and says, and I'm looking and he's talking to the guy and the corpsman takes his belt off. Same kind of belt I got, a web belt, wraps around his leg. And he tells this guy, other guy, give me your belt. No, my pants will fall down. The other guy had a log, what they call laws, these little rockets you pull apart and shit. It comes in packs of 4. Well, it has a strap on it. So the corpsman grabs the strap, makes another tourniquet. And then I looked at the corpsman's foot. It was like a miniature shark had cut all of his toes and the end of his boot off. He had got hit. He didn't say a word. He must have gave himself the morphine syringe. I couldn't believe it. He couldn't even, how could a guy even walk? I mean, you know the end of your shoe like this? Right. Well, think of a
ice cream scoop.
Right off. I go, that was, you should have got some kind of a medal for that.
Imagine.
Yeah, that was really above and beyond Call of Duty there. Kind of funny.
Did you ever have any problems with any of your officers, like making bad calls, decisions where to go, and you knew it was a bad one, but?
Several times. A lot of times officers were incompetent. Do stupid things. Have you go certain places and rather going around or being it smart, since most of us have been here a while. But the officers are only going to be in the field for 6 months. They rotate. And they've got to get their glory in 6 months to show what outstanding officers they are. My friend told me this story. He told this guy that I knew, he says, hey, go down there, down the trail, and check it out. Well, he goes down the trail and guys, they waited, they just shot him. He should have called in some artillery or should have went around it because everybody told him, says, they're there, wants to see if the enemy's, they're there, all right. So anyway, they sacrificed that guy's life. Middle of December 1968, LBJ wanted to get as many people back as they could. So the Marine Corps, they rotate, they give you 13 months at a duty station. The Army gets 12 months. But it's usually the Army had like 11 in the field and then a few more days. Meanwhile, you're drifting to the rear. Well, the Marine Corps, you will do 12 months in the field And then we got 30 more days to get you out. So it's 13 months tour. But so anyway, I spent 12 months and 14 days in Vietnam. August 1968, going on a very large operation in the DMZ. Battalions, many people, a lot of casualties. Glad we got out of there. The guy way to my left is my Filipino buddy, Larry Silvestri, good Marine. Quite an experience. All I can say is blind luck. A lot of people, they tell you, your training's gonna keep you alive. This is gonna keep you alive. Obey orders. Nah, it's just blind luck. Why was I there and that guy was there? How come I didn't got wounded and this guy got killed? So, crazy. So they finally, I'm back in the rear. They send me back out. I got blood poisoning, but I still stayed. Since I was the senior corporal in the field, they called me the right guide. It's this little job where it's like a semi-retirement for you. You didn't have to go on a patrol unless you wanted to. You didn't have to go on an LP if you didn't want to. You didn't have to go on ambush if you didn't want to. But I went anyway. Until one day, we were on the inside Laos, and we were a long ways from our little base. And they're on the hook, and I get the hook, set up an ambush here. Now this would be like in a movie. There's a waterfall, and you had to get close to each other to hear yourself talk, which is no place for an ambush. You should get away from that noise because they could creep up on you. And then I made the decision, and I remember my Filipino buddy said, "You're gonna stay, aren't you, Ray? You're gonna stay, right?" "Nah, Larry, I think I'm going back." Ah! They were scared to death. And I was scared because I said, this is a bad place. There's only about 8 or 9 of us in a real bad place. It's a good place for the NVA to get their water. But if I was running an ambush, I would have got away from the noise of the falls. Anyway, I gave that consideration. I said, I'm short. I think it's about time for me to wind down. I only got a couple weeks left, I started to lose my nerve, to be honest with you, to face it. I faced it right away because I was there 9 months before I got wounded. And one time I was in a squad, everybody was wounded once except me. And a couple of them are wounded twice. You're supposed to be put in the rear if you get wounded twice. A friend of mine I went to boot camp with got wounded 3 times, and they put him in Okinawa. He was only there 6 months and he got wounded twice. Got shot once and mortar rounds the other 2 times. That's how dangerous this place is. And from that moment on, little by little, my tough guy inside started to dissolve. Not that I want anybody to see it, but I said, and I remember saying, boy, no, I'm the only guy wounded. Not wounded. I said, I know I'm going to get wounded, but please, not in the head. That's all I kept saying to myself.
That one's unforgiving.
Yeah, not in the head. That's all I wanted, not in the head. I just thought of this. You mentioned friendly fire. I remember a time I did our friendly artillery. Somebody must have took us for NVA, and we're all scattered around, and I'm as close as you and I, and artillery round went up, bam, 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 5, 6 of them in the air. They called VT, aerial time fuse, variable time, VT. So you get air burst. And the idea is if somebody's in a hole, you can get them. Bow, my buddy goes, ow. He had a hole in his arm. And all I could hear was whiz. Didn't get me, didn't get anybody else. He was so happy. No, it was just a little, like a big as a, yeah, flesh one. He was so happy. He says, "That's 2 hearts, man. That's 2 hearts. I'm going in the rear." But she did. I've got to add this. For the last, I was too short. I had 2-year enlistment. And when I got back to finally get out of Vietnam and go to Camp Carroll, or Camp Lejeune, I only had 5 months left. We're all gonna, the outfit, 8th Marines, we're gonna go to Guantanamo Bay. And I asked my buddy, what are we gonna do in Guantanamo Bay? Fill sandbags. I mean, what else? That's all. Then you walk around the perimeter and wave at the Cuban soldiers around you. And so I'm talking to the chief clerk, and I says, geez, I'm too short to be going there. Oh, I got something. You're gonna go on temporary additional duty. I'll work it out for you. What am I gonna do? Oh, you're gonna be traffic control. I go to traffic control. No, you're not on the list. That traffic control, blowing a whistle, stop, or putting cones on. Oh, you must go to base MPs. I go to the base MPs. All they do is run around giving you a hard time. No, you're not on the list. He looks up something, he goes, "You lucky dog. You're gonna go on shore patrol. Every other day off." Oh my God, it was like an R&R every other day just walk into town. But I would go into town, Jacksonville, North Carolina, and look at all the girls and drive around my Jeep with my uniform on, or my truck actually. And my buddy was a boxer. He jumps on him. He's riding this great big 6'5" guy, like he was riding a bucking bronco. And then finally picks him up and throws him down. And then I had this nightstick, and I popped him on the knee. How do you like that? That made him mad as hell. I go, "Boom!" And I go, "Holy shit, I'm not going to shoot him." I had a 45. So I went to the truck and said, "We need some help out here." And so some other guys come. Oh, this guy was a raging bull. He spun me around and he tried to push me through a plate glass window in a store, like a clothing store. And then everything went downhill from there. Jacksonville police, they don't fool around because they deal with this all the time. And one day we're having this guy's going crazy. So me and the other guy are trying to grab him, put handcuffs on. And this cop comes up, the local cop, Jacksonville police, I said, "Is that one of yours?" "Yeah." And he starts spraying him in the eyes and the mouth. And he says, "That shit don't bother me none. That shit don't bother me none. That shit don't," and he fell. He goes on the ground, he's rolling around. We got a whiff of that, and I'll tell you, I don't know how that guy could stand there. The guy's saying, mouthing off, and that stuff's going in his mouth, his eyes, his nose, and that cop just kept going.
Him up.
Yeah, and then I was one of the funny things. He just fell on the ground and started rolling around. Put alcohol in somebody that's not quite right, you're going to have problems. April 69 I got out.
And you're corporal?
No, sergeant. I made sergeant.
Made sergeant.
Boy, what a difference in life, that makes. That extra stripe. You go to head of the chow line, and you eat off plates, not a stainless steel tray.
When you get home, is there any animosity about you having been a Vietnam soldier?
Yeah, a lot of that. I remember I went to the LA airport. My grandparents dropped me off. I'm going to go to Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from. I had a uniform on. And this Hare Krishnas come up around us with their robes. And he kept clanging his tambourine in my face, real close to me. They wanted donations. And I finally says, "Get that thing away from me." And then he'd get up closer, ding, ding, ding. Well, he wanted me to grab him, I suppose, I think. But he was having a good old time. He was tormenting me in his mind because I had a uniform on. But there's a lot of animosity. I gotta add this little story. My friend come over to see me. So we went down to the local delicatessen. I think we were gonna buy a 12-pack or whatever. Well, when he opened the door and he had my car, he slid across the street and went zip. And I opened my door and I jumped on the ground, on the asphalt. because he comes around the car, what happened to you? What's wrong? It sounded like a mortar coming in that I didn't hear. So I was twisted up. My father, we had conflicts all the time. And when I got back, forget the war's over. I go, it's still going on right here. And I pointed my finger to my head. It's over, it's over, it's over. I says, I know. But this World War II guy says, you goddamn drug addicts lost the war. I said, one arm was tied behind her back. LBJ stopped any bombing of the North the whole time I was there. And I thought this was crazy. They were prepared to lose immense casualties. The United States couldn't, we parceled our bodies in a way, but it became too much for the American people. They said, we're not getting anywhere, we've got to get out. Looking back, that was right, but I wish they would have figured that out a long time ago. And then I said, all those men, all for nothing.